Hey folks, thanks for joining us here at skullhooker.com. Today I'm going to show you how to do a skull mount right on your own trophy that you've harvested right in your backyard. It'll take you about 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and I'm also going to show you how to use the skull hooker with that mount. To me, the skull hooker is just super versatile, very economical, and a great answer or another option that you can use other than a shoulder mount. We all know as hunters that shoulder mounts have got really expensive. It's easy to pay $400 to $500 for one. So this skull hooker is just super economical and just a great way to display your head on the wall. So without further ado, let's get started, and I hope you enjoy it. Some of the tools you'll need is a pressure washer. If you don't have one of those, you can just borrow one from a buddy. You'll need an outdoor cooker, like a fish cooker with a propane tank and a pretty good sized pot to put the head in, because that's how we're going to clean the skull. Is we're going to boil it and to be able to get all the meat off the bone, and then we're going to use the pressure washer to clean it really well. So the first thing I really like to do to get started is I'll fill the pot up with water, get the fire going, and let that start trying to bring that water to a boil, because it's going to take a good 20 minutes to bring all that water to a boil. And while it's doing that, I start work on the head, skinning it out and cutting any excess meat off the skull before we are ready to boil it. Alright, one thing I wanted to say is make sure that you store your head in the freezer until you're ready to do this. The longer a deer head or any type of other head sits outside without being frozen, the skull can become more stained. So take it out about 24 hours prior to give it plenty of time to thaw. Okay, we have all the skin off the head now. The only thing we have left to do is remove the bottom jaw. You can leave it on, it'll just lengthen your boil time, but I like to take it off just so I have a shorter boil time and I've got less meat to deal with while I'm trying to get it off the bone. So let's head outside and I'll show you how I remove the jaw. So I just take a regular wood saw just like this and kind of just place it right in the mouth of the deer and just saw straight down just like that. All right, so we've got the head, it's all clean, the bottom jaw is off, so now all we've got to do is drop it in this water. Just fill the pot up just far enough where it's about maybe a ½ inch or so above the base of the horns. That way it's covering all the meat on the back of the skull. So we've got the deer head in the water now. We're going to time it, give it about 30 minutes, then we're going to pull it out, and we're going to do the first pressure washing job on all the meat, and you're going to see how easy this is to do. Now, what I didn't tell you earlier was that when I poured the water into the pot, I put a little scoop of OxyClean in the water, and what that does is just helps clean the bone, and it helps pull all the grease and oil out of the bone that was deposited there by the fatty tissues of the skin and meat and all that of the deer. So we just put the head back in for the second time. We just washed off about 75 or 85% of the meat. So now what we're doing, we're going to put it back in the water for about 20 minutes. That's going to cook the rest of the tissue and meat in the nasal cavities and in the brain. And then we'll take it back out and blow off the rest of the meat, and it should be squeaky clean for us to bleach. Okay, here we are. It's the next day after we cleaned the skulls with the pressure washer. You don't have to wait overnight, but I ran out of daylight. But what you definitely want to do is you want to let the skull dry completely from the water. So once it's dry, what I like to do is kind of just go over it with a pair of needle nose pliers, and I am pulling off just any excess little pieces of meat or flesh that didn't get out from around the bone, and just to make sure that it's completely clean, and pull out those pieces, and then we are ready to start bleaching. Alright, I wanted to give you a couple of quick tips real quick on how to use the pressure washer on the head. Generally I'll start at the top of the head and I'll work around the bone and then around the horns and then come down. You can put the tip of your pressure washer down on really close, ½ inch or so to the bone. You're not going to hurt it. Where you can damage the skull is right here in the sinus area and when you're blowing up through the nasal cavity. Just back away a little bit farther while you're blowing it, because you can, like I said, you can blow those bones out, but that's why I don't boil very long, because it makes the bone very brittle the longer you boil. So I typically, like I said, do it for about 30 minutes the first time, blow most of the meat off, and then put it in there for another 20 minutes to go ahead and cook the rest of the meat that was down in the middle of everything that you didn't get out the first time. So to clean the nasal cavity, you can stick the wand right here in the nose and blow all the meat out, and it's going to come out the back of this, and then the back of the natural opening of the skull. So it's going to blow all the nasal meat and the brain matter out the back of this hole right here. All right, so the things you'll need to do the whitening of the skull is a bottle of 40 volume peroxide. You can pick this up off the internet for about $5 a bottle, and then whatever shipping is, $5 or $7 for that. Need a baster with a little bulb on the end, some sort of plastic cup that you can pour this liquid into, and then a Tupperware or some sort of plastic container that you can set the skull down in so the excess liquid can run off of it. And then you need some rubber latex gloves, because you do not want to get this 40 volume peroxide onto your skin. It'll burn it. Alright, so you just take a little bit of your peroxide, pour it into your whatever type of cup you got there. That bottle's out. And then you set your skull into your plastic container just like so it'll run down in, and you just draw this up into your baster. Now, what you want to do is you want to definitely make sure that you do not get this liquid onto the antler, because it will turn that white as well. So that's why I love using this little baster, because you can get really precise about where you're putting this stuff. And this allows the liquid to drain all down into the little crevices of the bone. And the good thing is, whatever drains off into the plastic container, you just use your baster to suck back up, and you don't have to reuse a bunch of the liquid at all. You just keep using the same liquid over and over, and you can do 3 or 4 applications if the bone is really stained. You only really need to do maybe 2 applications, because this bone is going to absorb the liquid, and it'll need to sit, overnight, at least a good 12 hours to let it really start doing the whitening. Another thing I like to do is, after the first application or 2, I'll take it out and sit it in the sun, and the sun activates this chemical and even makes it work that much better. Alright folks, so we've got the skull bleached out the way that we want to. Now it's just time to hang it on the wall. And the skull hooker that we're going to use today is the little hooker, and we're using it in color brown. They have also black as well, so it's just whatever your preference is. But the little hooker is best for species that are the size of like this whitetail, pronghorn, mule deer, blacktail, and a huge number of African game species as well. It can also be used on things such as a bobcat, mountain lion. So if you're going to use or if you're going to be hanging an elk skull or a caribou skull, something that size, then you'll definitely want to get the big hooker. They make one a bigger size that's specifically designed for those bigger heads. So, alright, today it's the robust brown and the little hooker that we're going to be using. Alright, we've got the plate mounted to the wall, or in this scenario I've got it mounted to a stud here in my shop, just to show you how it works. But then we've got the arm that's been assembled, and one thing I want to show you real quick is how to slide the back of the skull onto the arm. And it's really simple. It works. You just slide the resting arm right into the back main natural opening of the skull, and then it rests right there on the bone, just like that. Very easy, and you can take it off, on and off, really simple, and that's it. So just take it out. I'll move it here just a little bit closer for you, and you just slide it in there just like that, and that's how it holds the skull onto the arm. So now we'll just take the arm, slide it into the holes on the wall plate, and then just slide the skull right on there just like that, and then you've got it you can straighten it up once you get it on there. And then one of the really cool things I like about this is that you can change the angle in which the skull sits on your wall. So if you want to face it towards a door or a TV or window, you can change it really easy. You can also change the angle in which the skull sits on there by adjusting the screws back here as well. Pretty simple. So just a great tool and a great way to show off your trophies to all your friends. Well, that wraps it up for us today. We hope you've learned something. And remember, the next time you have a skull mount to do, give the skull hooker a try. You'll be glad you did.